When Argonaut died in the early 2000s, I bought the rights to all the Argonaut IP from the administrator, both to protect it, but also because I knew someday I'm going to want to revisit these and let a new audience try them and play them. And that took a long time. This was, 20-something years ago since Argonaut died and has now been resurrected. I knew that Croc would be the special one that we wanted to revisit. And there's a couple of others as well. Starglider, for instance, one day I will revisit. Most of the Argonaut catalogue, maybe it'll come back, maybe it won't, but Croc and Starglider were like very dear to my heart, and I wanted them to come back in some form in the future, and 20-something years later we're doing that. I think that there's no mystery that if you own your IP and you control your own destiny, then that's worth something. It's worth something for the success of the company. It's worth something for being able to do sequels and spin-offs and everything else. So it's key that we have our own IP and that it's successful. And as soon as we released Croc and we could see that it was successful and that it was hitting the mark, and it was also appealing to parts of the audience that weren't always available to us. For instance, Croc was actually popular with women as well as men, and at the time most, or should I say girls and boys, but at the time most games were aimed at boys and very few games appealed to girls too. So Croc was very important for us in that regard. PlayStation 1 was 320 by 200 resolution. Pretty blocky by today's standards, but the good thing is the new retro Croc can run in any resolution, and so it actually looks more rounded, a more softer an image, because it's taking advantage of what the platforms can do today. With the level of technology that we had back then, 30 years ago when PlayStation 1 was running Croc, that looked amazing. It looked like state of the art. But since then, platforms have increased in power and games have increased in complexity and particularly visual fidelity. And when people see Croc again today, I think it will bring back warm and fuzzy memories for what it used to be like, but also it is enhanced. It is taking advantage of some of the capabilities that we can do today that we couldn't do back then, but it also still very much looks like the Croc of 30 years ago. And also the way games play, it hasn't changed much over the years. The games might look better, they might take 100 or 200 people to make now instead of 30 people. But the way games play is fundamental to the game, and Croc plays as well today as it ever did. I think that Croc is universal because the stories are lovable, the characters are non-threatening and very enticing. The worlds are colorful, and the gameplay is really pure and fun. And maybe a lot of games these days are shoot everything in sight, and it's very different back then. And so the game of Croc is kind of a pure fun game, and harmless and yet extremely fun and enjoyable. I didn't leak it to purposely do anything. I'm just a very open book, much to some people's annoyance. And I was excited by the idea, and finally Croc was going to be remade. And I just couldn't wait to tell people. And I also didn't think it would be that much harm to leak that Croc was in development. It's not saying when it's going to come out. It's not saying who's doing it or what it's going to be, but just to leak that Croc is coming back. That was all I wanted to do, and it did generate a lot more interest than I thought it would, and a lot more PR, and it caused the strategic marketing guys in the new Argonaut to have some kittens, because wow, this is about a year or so before we want to announce it. But on the other hand, it actually brought a few people to the table that we didn't know about. Some people have been able to join and help us on the way that we wouldn't have found if it wasn't out there that we were working on it.